All right, for our second listener comment, we have another email from February of last year, of this year, just a couple months ago, I'm sorry, discussing our episode on the shadow of the past. This one is responding to my conversation with Cyril about his selected reading of the final paragraphs of The Hobbit, and specifically Gandalf's reprimand of Bilbo's flippant statement, "So the prophecies have come true after all," in a fashion. I'll read this one. This is from listener Cade. And he says, "I was writing in to share the way that I have always understood Gandalf's reprimand to Bilbo about the prophecies coming true in the end of The Hobbit, as was discussed in the last episode in January 2025. He says, "To me, Bilbo represents a more modern perspective on things going back even to the beginning of the book, or at least he seems to do when he is in the Shire. So then, to Bilbo, if a prophecy comes about through natural means or through understandable actions of people, it somehow makes it less of a prophecy. The idea being that prophecy coming true represents something miraculous, and nothing which can be explained is really a miracle, which I feel like was a modernist sort of take on miracles made popular from the Enlightenment forward. Either prophecy and miracles are not real, or else they are primitive misinterpretations of natural phenomena." So to me, Gandalf was telling Bilbo that this is not how prophecy works. Just because someone could explain events rationally, whether or not the events did transpire through that explanation, it does not make those events necessarily less spiritually or prophetically significant. And then he says, "Thank you for continuing with the podcast." So what do you think of that, Josh? Any thoughts on prophecy and modernism and miracles?
Well, the first thing that came to mind, I can't remember which book this is from, but a passage that C.S. Lewis wrote on miracles. And I read this about the same time that I started making mead, and so it spoke to me. Uh, but if I remember it right, he was comparing talking about Christ turning water into wine at the wedding of Cana. And saying, is it less miraculous that the water turns into wine over a long period of, say, 4 to 6 weeks if you're using a wine kit, or not using a wine kit, but if it takes longer, is it less miraculous than if it happens instantly? It sure seems less miraculous, but is it actually?
Interesting. I like that because the making of wine or mead too is frankly a miracle. Whether it happens fast or slow is like I've done it once, and I know you do this like all the time, but you just throw these ingredients together, and then it does that, and the result is
And it,
this.
it doesn't look anything like the end product when it starts.
Yeah.
or when it's fermenting.
Yeah. I did really appreciate. I have to say, I appreciate what is effectively Cade's rebuke of me too, because I should have gotten this and I didn't. And yeah, it makes a ton of sense that you've got that issue with modernism, that issue with dismissing, with explaining everything away, and that I think that does make sense of what Gandalf's saying. Like, okay, so you took part in fulfilling the prophecies, you can explain it all away. That you really are still a very little hobbit, and well, to quote a different. Oh boy, am I going to go here? Yeah. To quote a different property that we received from our father and uncles, it's just love and miracles out of nowhere. And it's funny to see Gandalf, bringing that in as almost the last word, the moral of the Hobbit, which presents itself as just a children's story, but really has a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And I have to give props to Father Andrew because he did a nice job digging into that. I guess a couple years ago now. All right.
I had one more thought on this,
Please.
and I refrained from using this as one of my quotes for later on because I thought maybe I'll use it now. But when Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli meet Éomer,
Yes.
and he reveals himself, and Éomer says, "Legends spring up out of the green grass," and Aragorn has that great line that the green grass, you say, that is a mighty matter of legend.
Yes.
So you walk it in the light of day. Or something.
Right. And I'm glad you bring that up because this is a central theme for Tolkien. Whether we're in the just apparently humdrum reality of every day or not, we are walking in the grandeur of a much greater story, and that's, I guess, the theme I've been reflecting on too, with just this reality of these elven towers that are right outside the Shire and nobody can be bothered to go and climb them. Which Tolkien is nicely embedded in the story. So, Cyril, if you're listening, I think that I missed the point before, and really, your picking of that example of that reading was beautifully appropriate.